السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Barakallahu feekum. So this talk this afternoon is about Ifa. This is the book. It's called Yoruba and Ifa Polytheism in Light of Islamic Monotheism. So we want to briefly mention first, why is it important to clarify the dangers of the Ifa religion to the Muslim community and to the people in general? So if we think about the different religions that have entered, especially upon the black communities in the United States of America, in the West, many of us are not familiar with Ifa, right? Many people have not heard of this group before. But we are more familiar with the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelites, and the Five Percenters. But the strange thing about it is that which one of these is older? Ifa is thousands of years older than all these other religions. And Ifa was actually in the United States of America before all of these other religions were. So why is it that we are just now hearing about them while we heard about the Nation of Islam and the Five Percenters long ago? So Ifa is at least over 1,000 years old. It came mostly from West Africa. The Hebrew Israelite movement started in the late 1800s. Moore's Science Temple started in 1913. The Nation of Islam started in 1930, and the 5% Nation started in 1964. So me being from North Carolina, there was no one from the Nation of Islam on the corner selling bean pies when I grew up, not one. No person from the 5% Nation. But I knew about these people. Why do you think I knew about them? Rap music. Rap music. In the 90s, the hip-hop artists like Rakim and Poor Righteous Teachers and Brand Nubian, they used their music to popularize the teachings of the nations of gods and earth known as the 5% Nation. And Public Enemy used to promote Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. So today we find the exact same thing with the Ifa and Santeria. The culture is immersed in pushing these things. So it's almost impossible that these religions are not going to enter your home, that your family, your wives, your children are definitely going to hear about these people if they have anything to do with anything in the culture. I'm going to give you some examples, and then we're going to get into the beliefs and who these people are. All right? So an example of how these people are of the culture is there was a very popular superhero movie some years ago called Black Panther. Won 3 Academy Awards, made over $1.35 billion, and it is based upon this religion. To have this the Panther goddess gives Black Panther his power on the ancestral realm. It is based upon the Ifa religion. So how many of our children watch Black Panther? Now they've been exposed to that. The same guy that produced Black Panther in 2025, he did another movie called Sinners. Several Oscar awards and nominations based upon Ifa. They even have an actress in there that plays a hoodoo priestess. Hoodoo comes from Ifa. How about the music? One of the most popular music artists in the world that we hope our children don't listen to, but Allah knows best. If they listen to music, they probably listen to her. She practices Ifa, Beyonce. In fact, she came out with an album, she called it Lemonade. And they say this was her greatest album. They say, in fact, it's one of the greatest albums of all times. The whole album was based upon the Ifa religion. And she has references to Yoruba, Haitian voodoo, and Santeria, because Beyonce worships their deity Oshun, who's referred to as the goddess and mother. And they believe that her waters were central to the creation of humanity. Her sister also practices Ifa. Now, Beyonce practices Ifa. Her husband also does the same thing, Jay-Z. And he also raps about it in his music. His god is the deity Shango, who they call the god of lightning and thunder. That's So Beyonce and Jay-Z both not only practices E5, but they promote it heavily in their music. Now also, there was a viral saying in 2025. This saying, it crossed racial lines, meaning black people were saying it, white people, teachers. This saying also got put in dictionary.com. It was the saying 6'7". 6'7", very popular statement. So why is this connected? Because it was started by a rapper named Skriller. His mother is Mexican, and so he was raised practicing Santeria. And he practices Santeria and Ifa, and he promotes it heavily in his music. He wrote a song, Words from Ogun, as a tribute to one of his gods. And so when they asked him about the saying 6'7", he also uses that as a chance to promote his religion. So he openly talks about his religion. Also, there's another rapper. There are many rappers that practice this. Another rapper, and I'm kind of too old to know about some of these rappers, but I think they're pretty popular. There's a rapper called Young Thug. Is he pretty popular to young people? Well, I don't want anybody to incriminate themselves, so I'll just assume that Young Thug is somebody that's pretty popular because he won Grammy Awards. They say he went platinum. He's in Atlanta, Georgia. They say he's the pioneer of mumble rap. Okay? He practices Ifa. And so the legend has it, the urban legend is that Young Thug had a RICO charge. He was going, to prison for a long time. And so while he was awaiting trial, his partner was sacrificing a goat to their deity, and all of a sudden, the charge was thrown out. They say he beat the charge for sacrificing to his God. And that went around the neighborhood, and people began to practice this religion even more because they believe that it can help you beat a charge, right? There's another rapper named Gunplay. He practices Santeria. And he said that he survived near-death experiences by sacrificing goats and chickens to Shango. Another rapper, 21 Savage, he was raised practicing E5 because his mother does it also. So he's been upon this his whole life, and he openly calls to it. There's a singer, Summer Walker. She's an R&B singer, Santeria. There's another R&B singer, and her situation is very interesting. Her name is SZA. How's that pronounced? SZA, okay. She said her mother is Christian. Her father is Muslim. So she grew up going to Sunday school and Jumu'ah prayer. She said she fasts every Ramadan and prays 5 times a day. She said, but the reason that she doesn't wear hijab because she doesn't want to respect Islam, doesn't want to disrespect Islam being on stage wearing hijab. But she's a Muslim, okay? But she doesn't have proper knowledge. May Allah Ta'ala guide her. So she posts on her social media, praise be to Yemaya and Oshan. And these are the deities of Ifa. So she's a Muslim, but because she doesn't have the proper knowledge, she's giving praise to these deities of Ifa. You see why it's important for this stuff to be clarified? For some of the older people, there's a woman, her name is Iyanla Vanzant. She had a show called Fix My Life on the Oprah Winfrey Network. She's a high priestess of Ifa, high priestess. There's an actress, Taraji P. Henson. She's practices Ifa. Shaka Khan for some of the older people. She got the name Shaka at 13 because her parents practiced Ifa. She's been in her whole life. And Dr. Omar Johnson. He left Islam to practice Ifa. And he openly calls to it and promotes the Ifa religion. All right? So now we see all these people who are engrossed in the culture practice Ifa. Okay? So it's important that this stuff be warned against. Actually, something pretty amazing happened last week. Myself and Sheikh Raha went to the prison to, give a talk for the brothers, for their Eid. And one brother, he came up to me and thanked me. And this is only from the ni'mah of Allah. It has nothing to do with me. But he had been praying to these false deities, although he's a Muslim. And he had been doing so to get an edge. When you hear about Gunplay survived getting shot up by sacrificing to his goat, so this brother began to pray to these deities to get an edge. And a brother heard about it, and he gave him the book. And he said he left off praying to these deities after reading the book. Alhamdulillah. Like another example that has nothing to do with me, but it's from the ni'mah of Allah Ta'ala. There's a brother in our community, may Allah bless him. He said a woman at his job was interested in Islam, so she started going to the meetings of the Nation of Islam. He gave her the book about the Nation of Islam. He said 2 weeks later, she took Shahada and said, I'm never sitting with the nation again. That's why it's important to clarify this stuff, okay? Now, there's something else that Ifa is deeply engrossed in that you may not know. There's a major festival that started in 1975 in Philadelphia, Odunde Festival. You heard of that? Odunde Festival in Philadelphia. They say that on the second Sunday of June, they cover 16 city blocks. And the festival gives a $30 million boost to the economy of Philadelphia. What does the festival, how does the festival start? It starts when they take a march and they offer fruits and flowers and honey to the river, to the goddess Oshun. It starts off giving an offering to their goddess. If you participate in the Odunde festival, you are participating in the Ifa religion. They start out with a sacrifice to their deity, right? Also, the last example that we'll give is something that unfortunately we saw a lot of Muslims wrapped up in. Black Lives Matter. Do you know when they gather together and they say her name? Some people think they just are remembering these black women who were oppressed by the oppressive police officers. They're doing more than that. The co-founder of Black Lives Matter in Los Angeles, she said that when they say her name, they are invoking the spirits of these dead people. And so they encourage everyone to call upon the spirit of Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, or anybody that died in your bloodline and invoke their spirits. And that's why after they do that, they say Ashe, which means I mean in Yoruba. So they're not saying her name to remember them, they're invoking the spirit of these people. Black Lives Matter. How many Muslims participate in that? Pouring libation to these dead people. So at any rate, that's why it's important. Now let's go to who are these people. Yoruba, it refers to both a people, a language, and a religion. So the Yoruba people should not be implicated in all of this shirk and kufr. Think about the Yoruba people like Bani Israel. Some of them are Muslim, some are Jews, some are Christian. When it comes to the Yoruba people, many of them are Muslim, even Salafi. Some of them are Christian. Some of them, many are pagans. So Yoruba, it refers to a people also. So here we're not talking about the Yoruba people. We're talking about the religion. You follow me? Okay? So as for the Yoruba, when it refers to a religion, it's the tree of African spirituality. And the branches of that tree are Ifa and Santeria and Voodoo. What is Ifa? In Ifa, they believe in a supreme being called Olodumare. And they believe in the veneration of spirits called Orisha. They believe in ancestor veneration, and they believe in divination. Okay? Now, what are the Orisha? They are seen as semi-divine manifestations of their supreme being. They believe these spiritual beings govern various aspects of the world and human life. So these Orisha, they call upon them for help, guidance, and protection. They believe these are semi-divine creatures that they call upon to help them out. And we're going to see why do they do that. Santeria, it emerged in the Caribbean and Cuba, and it happened when they enslaved the Africans and brought them to the Americans and the Caribbeans. So in order to pretend that they were Catholics and hide their real religion, they began to pretend to call upon the Catholic saints, but they were really calling upon their Orisha. And that's how Santeria got created, by blending Catholicism with Ifa religion, and you got Santeria. All right? And then you have voodoo. Many people that practice Ifa and Santeria, they also practice voodoo. So, now, here's the crust of the issue. Ifa worshippers, they prefer to use the term supreme being over the term God to make a distinction between the creator and the many gods they worship. They refer to those they pray to, seek guidance and protection from as Orisha and ancestors instead of gods, so they don't appear like they're polytheists. They describe their supplication, their sacrifice, their invocation, as veneration instead of worship, so you'll think they're monotheists. Say, we are venerating them. That's worship. But they want to give it another name to make it sound less shirky. Okay? So in Islam, we believe in Allah. Muslims believe in one incomparable God, Allah Ta'ala, who alone created the entire universe. He controls all the affairs in the universe. He alone gives life, causes death, and all the affairs are in his hands. He has no sons, no daughters, no siblings, no mother, no father, no wife, no likeness, no equal. As a result, all worship is due to him alone. If you direct any aspect of worship to anyone other than Allah Ta'ala, this is the greatest sin. As a result, Muslims don't worship prophets, ancestors, trees, stones, idols, the stars, the moon, or anything in creation. Muslims only worship Allah Ta'ala with no go-between. We pray directly to him, as all you know. Qul inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Say, indeed, my prayer, my sacrifice, my living, my dying belong to Allah, the Lord of all that exists. La sharika lahu. There is no partner for him. Wa bidhalika umurtu. And with this I have been commanded to do. Likewise, Allah Ta'ala is responsible for fulfilling the needs of all creation. And he is directly involved in the affairs of everything that you do. As a result, all worship goes directly to him. Allah Ta'ala, he said, يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. That everyone in the heavens and earth, they ask of him, and every day he brings about an affair. Now look at how, this is how we believe in Allah. Now look at how Ifa believe in Olodumare, their supreme being. Samuel Johnson, he wrote in his book, The History of the Yorubas, they acknowledge Olodumare as the maker of the heavens and the earth, but they say he is too exalted to concern himself directly with men and their affairs. Therefore, they admit the existence of many gods as intermediaries, as go-betweens, and they term these gods Orisha. All right? So they believe there's a supreme being, but he's too busy to bother with mankind. Therefore, they have these small gods who deal with mankind, and they call these small gods Orisha. Okay? Another author, he wrote in his book, The Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts, he says, these important deities bear the name Orisha, which are the divinities of the Yoruba people. Each requires special worship, song, and sacrifice. In another book, The Definition of God in the Yoruba Culture, and again, this is not all the Yoruba people, right? He said, the fact that the Yoruba mostly worship the Orisha and the divinities directly does not mean that they have no account of the supreme being and his power. But the Yoruba combine polytheism with the belief in a God who is the ultimate source of power. So they admit that they practice polytheism. All right? Also, in Islam, we believe that Allah Ta'ala has perfect, complete knowledge. Allah Ta'ala is the one who teaches us. We don't teach him anything. He said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. And fear Allah, and Allah will teach you. As for the Ifa, they believe their supreme being, he doesn't know everything. Sometimes he gets perplexed. They have an oral tradition that they say there's a story in which Olodumare was once himself perplexed over a very important matter. All the other divinities tried but failed to tell him the reason that he was perplexed. Only Arumala, who was another Orisha, succeeded in putting his finger on the source of his trouble. So their supreme being, sometimes he don't know what's going on, so he has to ask the smaller guys to help him out. All right? There's another story. They said Olodumare once consulted the oracle to find out about his possible death. Their supreme being went to an oracle to ask the oracle if he was going to die. And they say, and this shows that the use of divination to gain understanding is used even by the supreme being. Okay? And that's when you like draw lots and you do like little equations to find out what's going to happen in the future. They say even the supreme being has to do that. Another belief, when it comes to our belief, we know from the core beliefs of Islam, clearly stated in the Quran and the Sunnah, is that Allah Ta'ala has never taken anyone as a son. Allah Ta'ala, he severely rebukes those people who say he's taken anyone as a son. وَيُنْذِرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا, and warn those who say Allah Ta'ala has taken a son. As for Ifa, they have a strange belief concerning their supreme being and children. They say that their supreme being, he is sad because he couldn't have any children. And they say that the heavens weep and humans mistake it for rainfall, but it is the supreme being crying because he can't have children. We know that Allah Ta'ala has no likeness, and deeming the creation to be a manifestation of Allah or similar to him or equal to him is polytheism. Allah Ta'ala says, "Laysa kamithlihi shay." There is nothing similar to him whatsoever. As for the Ifa, they believe that their supreme being is manifested in the Orisha. They say, and there was a Yoruba priest, he's from America, but he's lived in that area for over 30 years preaching. His name is Lord Weaver. And he gave a talk to the Yoruba Cultural Heritage Network. And he said the traditional religion of Yoruba people is very similar to Christianity in that it worships one God. In Christianity, there's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. There are three aspects of one God. Yoruba tradition, you have the same thing, except there are 401 aspects of one single God. So instead of having three, they have 401. Right? And again, this is not all the Yoruba people. Dr. Omar Johnson, he said, people keep telling you there's one God. No, there's not. There's thousands of them. But there's one supreme being. A God is a form of the supreme being. God created divinities to give you access to divine power. When all black people come together, that's a form of God. That's what Dr. Omar Johnson said. Right? So Muslims should not listen to Dr. Omar Johnson. Jahil. Also, so far we have, they believe in their one a supreme being and the small Orisha. They also believe that everyone has with them their personal God. They call it Uri, and they say that's your personal God. Dr. Will Coleman, he said, there's a divine being situated on top of your neck. You brought him with you from the other side. So they believe that your head is a deity. And they believe that you have to offer sacrifices to your deity. So they offer sacrifices of your. So we're going to look at some of the Orisha. William Bascom, he said in his book, Ifa, Divination, Communication Between Gods and Men in West Africa. He said that while the supreme being is acknowledged as the ultimate creator and moral authority, he is not the direct recipient of worship or sacrifice. Instead, such devotional practices are directed towards Orisha, who act as a go-between between humans and divine. So they don't give direct worship to the one they believe is their creator. They give it to the small deities, all right? So we're going to see some of the major deities that they have. Now, they have a saying. They say there are 401 Orisha. This is a symbolic number, meaning there are too many to count. They have too many gods for you to count. So we're just going to mention some of them. Uramala. They say he is the prophet of Yoruba, and he is viewed as a deity of wisdom, and he is second to their supreme being. And they believe he was present during the creation of the universe. Listen to this. They believe he was present when the universe was created, and then he was later born in physical form to humble parents in West Africa. They believe that first he was present when the world was created. Then he was born into the world, right? And they say that the people of the land, they recognize him as a divine child. Although he was poor and crippled, but he showed divine wisdom and attributes from a young child. And then he left earth and returned to heaven, but he left behind his spiritual self in the form of sacred palm nuts. And the priests used these palm nuts to access knowledge of future events. So they believe this, he was a god, he was the second god to the big God. Then he was born on earth as a crippled, poor child. Then he went back to heaven and left part of his spiritual self in palm nuts that the preachers used to predict the future. Okay? Obatala. This is the god of Omar Johnson. They say that he has both male and female aspects. And he is the one they say was given the task to create human beings. So they say that Obatala, he created human beings from water and clay. But while he was creating human beings, he became drunk from palm wine. And that's caused him to create human beings with disabilities. So they say he was making mankind, but he got drunk. And so he ended up making people with disabilities. And when he became sober and saw his mistake, he vowed to never drink again. And he reinvented himself as the protector of people with disabilities. SubhanAllah. And we know that the Creator, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ طِينٍ. And surely we created mankind from an extract of clay. Allah Ta'ala is the one that created mankind. They believe that this man created mankind and got drunk, and alhamdulillah. The next Orisha is Oshun. And this is the Orisha associated with love and fertility and destiny and beauty. And they also believe that she is the Orisha of wealth when it comes to the people who practice voodoo. She is the most popular of all the Orisha. And she is represented by the color yellow. And this is why they say Beyonce had yellow lemonade in the video. It was a tribute to this, her god. Okay? So her followers seek help with romantic problems. They go to her for marital problems, right? And they also go to her for financial help, right? But we know that the one who places the love in the hearts of the spouses is who? وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And from his signs that he created from your own selves your spouses, so that you may live with them in harmony, and he placed between you and your spouse love and mercy. That's what Allah Ta'ala did, not these fake deities. Now, Oshun is married to Shango, right? So you see, Beyonce took one, and her husband took the one, the husband of the fake god, right? And he's viewed as the most powerful of the Orisha. He's called the god of lightning and thunder. Now, how did he become a god, according to them? They say that when he was on earth, he tried to plot against this other general, Gabunka, and he lost the battle. And so when he lost the battle, he got sad and he hung himself and died. And when he died, his followers, they began to worship him, and he became a god after he hung himself. Right? So he tried to sneak and betray somebody, got beat, got sad, hung himself. His worshipers began to worship him, and then he became the most powerful of their deities. Right? The next one, Ogun, is considered to be the god of war and metals and rum. And so the warriors and blacksmith, they will carry an amulet of Ogun to ward off traffic accidents. So if a person is a driver and they want to drive somewhere, they'll use the amulet of him to ward off traffic accidents. And in some rituals, they sacrifice dogs. They'll get a dog and they'll sacrifice a dog for this fake deity. Another one, Babalu, he is associated with healing and disease. In Santeria, he's also associated with Saint Lazarus, and he's depicted as a sick man with swords and dogs around him. So the people, they love him and they are afraid of him. Now, the strange thing is that they believe that when he was on earth, he was a sick man that died of an illness, and now he's the God of healing. Right? And so they, in order to invoke him, they beat the drum, they dance, and they try to get themselves possessed in order to invoke him. But we know that healing is from who? وَإِذَا مُرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ, said by Ibrahim. And when I become sick, then he heals me. Yamaya is the most beloved and worshipped Orisha. She is the goddess of the rivers and fresh water. And they believe she is the protector of mothers, women, and children, and she is the one that heals your emotional wounds. So all these Orisha are fictional characters, right? And they don't have any power whatsoever. But the reason these people that practice religion fall into this because they don't understand Tawheed, right? As Muslims, we have the pure monotheism, and that is to affirm the belief in a supreme creator of the universe. But that's not enough to be considered a monotheist. True monotheism requires that all acts of worship are devoted exclusively to the creator without giving any worship to anyone besides him. Because we know that the pagan Arabs, they used to believe that Allah Ta'ala was their creator. But that didn't make them monotheists because they didn't worship Allah Ta'ala without associating partners with him. Okay? So they have something called diffuse monotheism, right? And so that's where they believe in a supreme deity, but he exists alongside a group of lesser gods. And each god has a specific role. They write about this and they say they have a supreme being, but they venerate lesser divinities. And they say, and this gradually overshadowed the monotheism that they used to have. So when they initially had believed in a supreme being, they began to add these other deities in there, and it overshadowed the supreme being, and now they only worship their false deities. Examples of this worship. As Muslims, who we make dua to? A dua huwa al-ibadah, as kama qala alayhi salam. Supplication is worship. So if you supplicate, invoke, or pray to an Orisha or an ancestor, you are worshiping that Orisha or ancestor, thus you are polytheist. As for the Ifa, they wrote this in the handbook of Yoruba religious concepts. They say in Yoruba religion, prayer is very important. To make supplication to one's Ori, which is your personal divinity, your head, your Godhead, and to pray to the ancestors, and to pray to the Orisha, and Urumala, and Olodumare is an essential part of Yoruba worship. So they pray to all these things. The Orisha, your personal God in your head, your ancestors, and these other deities. They pray to all of them. In Islam, sacrifice is only for who? Allah Ta'ala, right? When we sacrifice for Allah Ta'ala only. As for the Orisha, or the Ifa, they sacrifice for their Orisha. So if you sacrifice for your Orisha or your ancestors, you are worshiping that Orisha or ancestor, because sacrifice is worship. Sacrifice is worship. So if you sacrifice for your Orisha or ancestor, you are worshiping them. Philip John Newmark, he said in The Way of the Orisha, which is his book, he said there are three kinds of sacrifices. Ibos, when you are sacrificing for your Orisha. Itutu, when you are sacrificing for your ancestors. And the third one is you are sacrificing to the evil spirits. So they sacrifice to the Orisha, to the ancestors, and to the evil spirits. Okay? They also have something called divination. And that's when they go seek guidance from the spiritual world. And they believe that people were born, that before people were born on earth, they lived with God in heaven. And they chose their own destiny before they were born. But when they came to earth, they forgot their destiny. So they tried to communicate with their these Orisha so they can inform them of what their destiny was. Now, in order to do that, you have to go to a priest. And for a nice fee, he will tell you what your destiny was before you came to earth, all right? And in doing this, they have the Ifa bees. They have these bees that they wear. And they say that these bees will protect you. Now, these bees, in order for them to protect you, there are two conditions. One is that you have to take them to a priest. And for $350, $800, or if it's a good priest, $1,000, he'll pray over the bees and you put them on. Now, if you ever take them off, they don't work anymore. So you got to get some new ones prayed over for some new money. So you have to take the bees to the priest, give them the money, let them pray over the bees, and put them on and never take them off. Right? Alhamdulillah. They also have ancestor veneration, is what they call it. Alhamdulillah. So, because they believe that some of their Orisha used to be humans before, and they experienced death and they were later deified, therefore they pray to these people, and they're their ancestors. As we mentioned, Shango, he committed suicide. After his death, he was deified, and then he's worshipped. Right? Another deity died, their god of healing, he died of a disease. Then he's the god of healing. So they pray to their Orisha and their ancestors. So Dr. Will Coleman, he said, according to one of my teachers, our ancestors literally live inside of us. They eat what we eat, drink what we drink, go where we go, and do what we do. And so they say the ancestors are worshipped separately from the Orisha. Before you can sow an Orisha, you must first salute and feed your ancestor. And one of the ways that we do that is libation. So before you can worship your Orisha, you have to worship your ancestor. So they have a line of people that you have to worship before you can worship the one you're trying to worship. Okay? Also, so we mentioned what they worship the Orisha, they worship the head god, they worship the ancestor, right? They also worship Ojagun, which are demonic beings. They worship demons. And they say that there are demons on earth who are trying to keep us or trying to offset our salvation. So therefore, in order to appease them and keep them from harming you, you have to worship them. Okay? So it shows that they don't understand the meaning of worship, because they don't call it worship, they call it appeasement. They say these demons will keep you from reaching your destiny unless you appease them. But it's not appeasement, it's actually worship. And they mention this. So listen to how they don't know worship. In the Center for the Study of Afro-Brazilian traditions, they say even though the Ojagun, who are the demons, are not worshipped, they are giving offerings and prayers intended to feed and appease them. You see? See where he doesn't know? He said, even though the Ojagun, these demons, are not worshipped, they are giving offerings and prayers, which is what? Worship, intended to feed and appease them. The aim is to feed the Ojagun, to appease them and ward them off. Prayers are addressed to them. Various items are offered to them, including water, gin, and kola nut, and cowrie shells. Muslims, we don't try to appease the devil. We seek refuge with Allah from the devil. You see? We seek refuge with Allah from the harm of the shaitan. We don't try to appease them. They try to appease them by praying to them. So they try to worship the devil to keep the devil from harming them. Likewise, Yaquan, something which is very important for those people who may be tried with music. May Allah keep us from being tried with that. If you didn't know the evil of music before today, maybe this will let you know the evil of music. In Ifa, they use music and chanting and dance to invoke the Orisha. So the drums and the dance are used as invocation to invite the spirit of the Orisha to enter your body. They use music for the music to allow that Orisha to enter your body. One of their priestess wrote, through dance, spiritual forces materialize in the phenomenal world. The God is said to mount the devotee, and for a time that devotee becomes the God. So they use music so they can get possessed. So keep in mind, this music, when the ulama say it's the voice of shaitan, they use that to actually get possessed, right? So in closing, Akhwan, one of the ways that they appeal to especially those in the black community is that they say this is the oldest religion in the world. This is the ancient religion of your ancestors. But what is the most ancient religion? What is the religion of our ancestors? The answer comes from the one that created the world. If you want to know what's the oldest religion in the world, look to the one that created the world. What is the religion of your ancestor? The oldest religion in the world is Islam. How do we know that? Who was the first man? Adam alayhi salam. What is his religion? Islam. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he said polytheism was not originally part of humanity. He said Adam and his descendants followed his religion, and his religion was pure Tawheed, right? Mankind was one religion, and they differed upon shirk and kufr, right? So Adam alayhi salam, your oldest ancestor, was a Muslim. And for 10 generations, they were upon Tawheed. And then they differed, right? So Adam, the father of humanity, was upon pure Tawheed in paradise. And he continued to be upon Tawheed when he got sent to the earth. And his descendants continued this. As Ibn Abbas, he said, between Adam and Noah were 10 generations, all of them were upon pure Tawheed. So from a logical point of view, right, ancestor worship didn't exist during the time of Adam. Why not? Because Adam didn't have no ancestors. Adam didn't have an ancestor. He was the first man. So there couldn't have been ancestor worship, right? But Ifa and Santeria, they do have a distinction of being they were the part of the first polytheism, because the first polytheism came from ancestor worship. So they're not the first religion, but they are the first polytheism, because the first polytheism started where people began to worship the ancestors. And this is when the righteous men during the time of Nuh alayhi salam had passed away, and the devil came to the people and told the people to make statues of these righteous men, so they would, when they saw these righteous men, they would remember the worship of these righteous men. And they did so. And when the people that made the statues passed away, he came back and said, your ancestors used to worship these people. And they began to worship these people. Naam. So polytheism and shirk, of course, is the greatest sin against Allah Ta'ala. And this is why we want to warn against these things. Of course, this book has a lot more detail about the shirk and kufr of these people. And inshallah ta'ala, if you know somebody that has been tried with this, then perhaps you can share this book with them and they'll come back to that which is true. Or perhaps the person is trying to choose between Islam and one of these religions. And perhaps if you give them the book, they'll make the choice of choosing Islam. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala